Good evening. Can everybody hear me in the back? You must be a former police officer. Police officers always sit in the back of trainings. I'm Matt Wall. I'm an officer of the town of Wellesley. I'm currently the school resource officer for the high school. I'm an ALICE instructor, which it's a different acronym for active shooter response. So I've been with the department for 10 years now, and happy to be here tonight to go with you through run, hide, fight. I'll let the deputy introduce himself.
Hi everyone, Jeff Renzella, Deputy Chief of the Wellesley Police. Been a police officer for about almost 28 years. Born and bred in Wellesley, live in Wellesley. It's, my whole family's from town, so this is something that's kind of near and dear to my heart. And Officer Wall and I, there's a couple other officers that are part of this team. We conduct these trainings at several houses of worship in town, all the schools, some of the private schools. Wish we didn't have to do it. We were just talking about how when we went to school, this is nothing we ever had to do or consider. We went to church, never had to consider this, but it's an unfortunate circumstance of our society we live in today and the culture that you have to train for these type of things, or at least have an awareness that there could be someone that wants to do harm. And our point today, we have a lot of information. The idea is to kind of give you like that 40,000-foot overview of what to do, how to react, give you some tools in the event, however unlikely, but in the event of an active assailant attack. So if someone entered the church with a firearm, with an edged weapon, even if someone is having a mental health crisis, and they're out of control, they want to do harm to people, because that's at the bottom line, right? An active assailant event is someone who wants to do harm to people. And, it really starts with, and we always talk about it, it really starts with everyone taking a little bit of responsibility and having some good situational awareness. And we'll talk about it more throughout the training, but just, I always use the example, you come to service and you probably park in the same spot. Hey, that's my spot, I always park there. I come in the same door, I sit in the same area of the church, and I leave out of the same door. And so a big part of this is try to break that cycle and just become more aware. And clearly everyone that's here tonight has a vested interest, in the congregation here and wants to do the right thing, keep people safe. So as part of that is kind of open your eyes, like, maybe someday you come in a different entrance or you leave a different exit, and familiarize yourself with the building, inside and out. Just in the event of something bad, if the bad actor's in here and you had to evacuate out of a different exit, would you know how to get there? Would you feel comfortable doing that? So a couple little tidbits I like to throw out right in the beginning, but that's what Matt and I do. We teach at the schools, the little kids, who are great, by the way. When we do evacuation drills, man, they run fast out of the building, right? Middle school, they start to go a little bit slower. High school, they're like, yeah, okay, yeah. They're too cool, right? But we're trying to change that a little bit, right? We want to change it up with the schools. Because like anything, routine becomes kind of monotonous and boring, and everyone kind of gets used to it. So we have to walk that fine line, as we do with you, right? We don't want to scare people and be over sensationalistic about it. But we want to get the truth out there and get the reality. And just so people have a general understanding, if something were to go bad, how I'm going to handle it. And the other piece, too, is like, I don't know how many people here may be more than just congregants. Maybe you're staff at the church, or you're a greeter, or you're an usher. That's a big point. It's kind of a newer best practice, is having greeters and ushers in houses of worship. And they have a really important job, right? Because they're the eyes and ears of the church. If you have an event, if you have a service, they call it like the hello doctrine. Introduce yourself to as many people as you see, especially if someone's new and you haven't seen them in the church before, and maybe the hair in the back of your neck stands up a little bit. You're like, I don't know what that person's up to. They're acting a little bit suspiciously, a little bit out of the norm. It's really important to just make contact with them. I get it, it's a church, right? You want to be opening and welcome. You don't want to make it like a prison environment. But again, it's super important for greeters and ushers to have that communication with someone. They may think twice about, maybe there's a red flag or two that raises in your mind about that person. Have that communication, and then what do you do with that information? How do you pass it along to your fellow ushers, your fellow greeters, and if you have to the congregation as a whole? So it's things we'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation, but for now I'm going to hand the mic over to Officer Matt Wall.
All right, so the video I have queued up it's going to talk about run, hide, fight. It's basically, this is the explanation of the worst case scenario, right? Someone coming into the congregation simply looking to do harm. So we'll watch the video, and then we'll go over it afterwards, and then we'll kind of go over certain different situations you may see, any questions you may have, and stuff like that, okay? So we'll play the video, and then we'll go from there, okay?
While the likelihood of finding yourself in an active shooter incident is small, the risk is real, and these situations are happening with increasing frequency on college campuses and elsewhere. Our objective is to help put you in control of the outcome. Everything we discuss in this video can be summed up in 3 words: run, hide, fight. But first, what is an active shooter? An active shooter is someone with a gun attempting to kill people in a confined, populated area. For you, that means someone with a gun on campus who wants to kill. The purpose of this video is to give you the tools and confidence necessary to survive an active shooter attack. How will you know when an active shooter attack is underway? Know that gunshots don't always sound like they do in movies. If it sounds like a gun, or even firecrackers, consider that it may be an attack. Do not wait for confirmation. Do not seek a second opinion. If it sounds like gunfire, it's gunfire. The same goes for screaming. While screaming doesn't always indicate danger, it may be a reaction to something terrible. Keep in mind that police are minutes away, not seconds. You must fend for yourself during this time. You cannot wait for the police to arrive. You cannot wait to act. If you are inside a building, use any way out available, including emergency doors and windows. Keep closed signs don't matter now. All options are available to you. Always be aware of your surroundings. Identify your options and make a plan. By the time an attack begins, you should already know where to run. Look for exits now, so you won't have to during an attack. When the time comes to run, leave everything behind except your phone. Everything. Just thinking about what to bring is time wasted. The most valuable thing you have is you. Grab yourself and go. Get yourself to a safe place. If you are outside, run away from the attack sounds. Don't stop running until you are certain you are away from danger and in a safe area. When running, try to make yourself a more difficult target. It might be slower, but it could be safer. Don't turn around to see what's happening behind you. It is unlikely that the shooter is chasing you, but either way, slowing down to look for the shooter is not a smart strategy. Once you are out of immediate danger, dial 911. Tell the dispatcher there is an active shooter and your location. Do not assume someone else has already called 911. Yours could be the one call that saves lives. If you think it's too risky to leave your current location, hide. Active shooters seek easy targets, so don't be an easy target. It's that simple. An ideal hiding place would be a room with no windows and a locking door, but that option might not be available when the time comes. Turn off lights and shut the blinds. Make it look like the room is unoccupied. Even partial darkness helps. Choose cover over concealment whenever possible. Concealment is something like an office partition. It will hide you from sight, but it will not stop a bullet. cover is something that will do both. Heavy wooden doors, file cabinets full of paper, and objects of this type should always be your first choice. If possible, barricade doors behind you, even if locked. But try not to make unnecessary noise in the process. Be silent. Turn your phone to silent. Disappear. Shooters don't waste time exploring rooms that look unoccupied, trying to break down locked doors, or searching for hiding students. Once hidden, be prepared to stay hidden a long time. Stay calm and be patient. It may take a while, but the police will eventually find you and lead you away from danger. Again, the time to look for places to hide is not after the shooting has begun. It is now. Wherever you are on campus, be aware of your surroundings and ask yourself, where could I hide if it happens? What are my options? Does this classroom have a closet? Does the door lock? What could I use to barricade the door? If no other option is available, defend yourself. You might not think of yourself as a fighter, but others just like you have surprised themselves with how effective they can be when fighting back was the best option for survival. The attacker has at least one weapon, and you do too. Look around. Chairs, textbooks, backpacks, rocks, pens. You have more options than you probably thought. One readily available weapon is a fire extinguisher. You will find them in nearly every hallway. You also have surprise on your side. The attacker is not expecting armed resistance until police arrive. This is your advantage. When you fight back, your goal is to overwhelm the attacker and minimize their ability to use weapons effectively by limiting their vision or physically disabling them. And with others nearby, weakening the attacker will give them confidence to join the fight. Lastly, when you fight back, don't stop too soon. Fight until the threat is over. The number one job of the police is to stop the attack. This means they are totally focused on neutralizing the shooter. Keep in mind that active shooters look like anyone else, even students like you. So when you exit a building, raise your hands to show the police that you aren't holding any weapons. You don't want to be mistaken for the attacker. Remember, just as you are afraid, the police are on edge too. They need to be ready to take immediate and decisive action. So your behavior is critical. Hands in the air. Avoid sudden movements. Obey police direction. The police will shout orders. They don't have time for courtesy. They must act quickly and forcefully. Do what they say for everyone's benefit. Like we said, the police are there to stop the attack. Once that job is done, they will turn to helping. Let's talk about helping others. This may be the most difficult decision of your life, but the best thing that you can do may be just to run and get help. Remember, most active shooter incidents begin unexpectedly and end quickly. Help is on the way. If you can remember run, hide, fight, you have the most important knowledge needed to survive an active shooter attack. Familiarize yourself with your environment. Plan ahead. If you are prepared, you will be able to run, hide, and fight without hesitation and with confidence. Please share this video, not only with your fellow students, but with family and friends. The active shooter threat is not limited to your campus, or to any public place for that matter. This could be the most important video you ever share. Thank you for watching.
All right, so that's a really good video, kind of depicting ways to keep yourself safe without being overly terrifying, I guess. So let's just go through it. So that first is run. I like teaching Alice because it gives more information, where run, hide, fight has kind of other ideas mixed into it, but run, hide, fight is more applicable to places like businesses and churches. So run also has that alert piece. It's basically that that first sign that something's wrong. It could be that loud bang of a gunshot. It could be, congregants flowing forward and yelling. Could be any number of things. But it's something, it's like your body all of a sudden, oh, something's wrong, I have to react, okay? So again, if you had to run, depending on where the person entered in from, I see these are both exits. I don't know if those exterior doors are locked. If they entered there, would you, know to go back? But if they came this way, would you know to go that way? So that's what the deputy talked about, being familiar with your surroundings. You should know your exits. It's just situational awareness. You can do it in your everyday lives in a stress-free way. When I go to movie theaters or out to dinner, I take in everything. I take in where the exits are. If, again, because it doesn't have to be someone looking to do harm. It could be a fire. It could be any number of things. It's just smart to be familiar with what's around you should you have to make a quick exit. All right? Right. Ooh, did I hear windows? Right.
These windows open out.
Yeah.
They open out.
Okay. If, right, so, yeah. Now, if you didn't know and you had to break a window, the corners are the weakest point of a window, okay? People want to just smash the middle where that's actually the strongest point. If you aim for the corners, and again, obviously rake the broken glass, because obviously broken glass is very sharp. But yeah, you do what you have to do if you have to get out of here quickly. If the exits start getting clogged, take that chair, put it through that window. Okay, and so that's that run piece, right? So hide, okay? Again, if you're in here, there's really not too many safe places to hide, right? You can't just get down under the pew. What is in that door? What is behind that door? It's a small room. Okay. With an exit. Okay. Okay. So that, if you're, as the minister up here, like, you could use one of those doors and then use the exit. Do you have offices in the back or anything? So it's just that entryway that we saw. There's a downstairs. Okay. So what's the easiest access point to the downstairs? Straight out. Okay. So again, if the attacker happened to come through here and you were at the back, you could make your way downstairs. I would take a look at the downstairs. Are there any offices in the downstairs, or is it just an open downstairs area? Okay. Again, talking about taking in your surroundings. So when I teach, if I had to lock down or barricade, well, you should understand how your doors open. Do my doors open outwards to a hallway? Do they open inward towards the office I'm in? That changes how you would secure it, right? Obviously, hopefully, there's a lock on the door that you could just, you're looking saying no lock? Is there a lock on the door, do you know? Well, take notice if the doors have locks on them. See, this is all, right? It's like you take for granted all these things. Like, it's like, oh, I use it, but I don't know the space. Go down there. Look if the doors have locks. But again, simply enough, if you went into an office and the door opened inward towards the office, you shut the door, you lock it, take a wooden door wedge, and foot it underneath the door, okay? Now, so again, they're not going to take time to defeat a lock, and there are certainly, again, even if you forgot to lock it and you did the door wedge, they're pushing against a wedge, all right? Usually, if it's an outward opening door, I recommend getting like a heavy-duty extension cord that has a large male or female end. What you do is you would slip that end underneath the space between the door and the floor, shut the door, pull it tight, wrap it around something heavy like a desk, or if you felt like you had it, you could have 2x4s cut wider than the door jamb. You wrap the wire around the 2x4, you lock it, or if you forget to lock it again, that person's pulling against a heavy-duty extension cord with a 2x4. That door's not opening. And they're not going to take the time to try it. Again, they're looking for quick access because they know that as soon as that first shot goes off, they're on the clock. They know that we're coming. We're coming from all over. We're coming from the department. We're coming from a detail. We're coming from other towns. Okay? I didn't cover it, but in terms of that alerting piece, when you're alerted to that danger, the video touched upon, don't assume someone else is calling 911, okay? Because we also want to get flooded. Like, we get one accidental 911 call once a day, probably multiple times a day, and it's, again, for us, it's a trained response. We say, okay, it's probably an accidental 911. We send officers to confirm, but if we're getting multiple 911 calls, either open line or someone saying there's shots being fired, or did anybody know that you can text 911? So you can literally, it has to be words, you can't text video, pictures, or emojis, but you can put 911 in your text header and say shots at the church, and it comes into our dispatch center. And when we start getting flooded with multiple calls, it ramps up that severity. It ramps up that need to get there quickly because it makes it more likely than not that something bad is happening. So again, like, don't ever assume that someone else is, and again, even if it's you 911 and you don't feel like just leave it open line. We're going to be hearing what's going on.
Except that was as far as calling 911, maybe you don't feel safe to talk to someone.
Right.
So you can either text it, or you can simply just call 911, you don't say anything, just leave the line open.
Right.
If you call from a landline, I don't think the church has school landlines, that'll give us correct address. You don't have to say a word, and we'll know exactly where it's coming from.
Right.
If you call from your cell phone, we'll get a radius. If you have a newer cell phone, it's a pretty tight radius. We'll be able to know, especially when you see 5, 6 dozen 911 calls from cell phones all coming from this area. We're going to know something's going on. But maybe you don't feel safe enough you can actually speak. At least make that call. So you have old school landline, cell phones, and text.
Yep.
How would you communicate if there was an issue, an active assailant? This part, how would you alert, let's say there was an event going on, there's people throughout the church, how would you communicate that to the people here? Is there a method currently? So that's something to think about, right? A lot of churches have intercom systems. A lot of churches have intercom systems. Some of them have the greeters and ushers have it's something simple as a text thread. They could pass information along. These are all just tools, right? Like the stuff that Matt mentioned a little bit earlier, those are inexpensive tools, right? Door jams, wooden door jams, electrical cords. Some other, I can think like at the temple, they have pretty sophisticated security where they have intercom systems, they have emergency panic buttons that will, strobes will go off throughout the church, pre-recorded announcements. You have to tailor to what you're comfortable with as a congregation, cost concerns, obviously. You can't build Rome in a day, right? But you start with the baby steps. And this is kind of why we're here, right? Just to answer some basic questions, give you some food for thought. I just want to touch on that 911 piece.
I also just looked, and you'd have to go to a neighboring fire department because I'm pretty sure ours won't do it. But if you notice the elbow joints at the top of the doors as they open, so let's say you got most of your congregants through that exit, it has that elbow joint. You could store a cut sleeve of a fire hose, and you slip that over the elbow joint. It's another free, inexpensive, they can't open the door. For whatever reason, by the I didn't tell you about the wooden door stops if the fire department asks also. We can cut that out, right? Okay. Yeah, they don't like that. Usually, because when I talk about the school, I was like, well, when's the last time we had a fire in a school? And how many active shooters. So I look at on the, what's the more prevalent thing that's happening, how do we make it? So again, doorstop, a cut piece of fire hose is also a good option. If you can find a fire department that'll give you one of their old hoses to cut, or they can cut it for you. All very inexpensive ways. But yeah, so what's a practical way to have communication, you know? Like all our elementary schools, high schools, and middle schools, they have radios that, the temple has radios that they can communicate with one another. The transmissions can be heard by the police department. So that's one way. You know, there's all different ways, but you should have a system to kind of communicate with one another. Just, you know, if something is not right. And again, like obviously, this is worst case scenario. It's unlikely something like this will happen, but that doesn't mean we don't train for it. It is a part of our world. What you're more likely to see is maybe as the deputy might have touched on earlier in conversation, is someone who's dealing with some mental illness, or is just, things haven't gone their way, right? A lot of times people come into a church looking for help, and sometimes they get it, or maybe whatever they're battling is too much, and you know, so you just have to kind of find a safe and comfortable way. Again, like if it's someone you don't recognize, do you have someone in place to say, oh, welcome to the church, like I'm so-and-so, like, you know, can I help you find a seat? Do you have someone who's comfortable enough to do that? And, you know, again, you can gauge, right, if someone's like in a bad way and they're just like, yeah, I've had it kind of a bad stretch, like that's very different than, okay, this non-communicative, there's something else going on here. I'm gonna, you know, you can take it from a safe distance, but how do I engage that person to kind of get a little bit of information from being safe myself, right? So let's finish what the video talked about, fight, okay? It's, right, nothing is linear in these, it's all, you gotta do what's best. Obviously, fighting would be the last thing I would want any of you to have to do, but if it's between you and the attacker, you have to do what you have to do, and you use whatever you have. If it's, what are these things called? The music stand, right? Music stand, right? I say giant flat hammer, okay? You know, we've all seen wrestling at one point, you chair over the head or something. It's no rules. You basically, and again, it's not to defeat the attacker. If you can, great. It's basically, what can I do to distract and buy time? Like, can I knock that individual to the ground and then get to an exit, right? Can I knock that person unconscious and get out a window, get out a door? You just have to make the best decision possible, right? The worst thing that you can do in this situation is just freeze, right? The deputies heard me say it to death, so, but my favorite quote that I use any time I do an active shooter drill is a quote by Teddy Roosevelt, and it's, in any moment of decision, the best thing to do is the right thing, the next best thing to do is the wrong thing, the worst thing to do is nothing, okay? Why we do these trainings with schools, why we do is so it's second nature, right? It's, if, God forbid, the unlikely event was to happen, they're gonna have an idea and they're gonna do it quickly. And if it's not the right decision, they can reevaluate and do something different, right? The example I use at the school is like, all right, you hear that gunshot, you think it's far enough away, I'm gonna evacuate. You go out your classroom door, depending on how close the shooter is, nope, now I'm gonna barricade, right? They know the tools, right? It's not gonna be fumbling for ideas, they know what to do, hopefully, and they make a decision and they reevaluate if necessary, right? It could be the same thing for you. You know, if you keep going with this, and I'm happy to come back and keep doing run, hide, fight, it's just tools in the tool belt to say, I know what to do. I know what that is, right? And then it becomes almost like that mental, like, you know, we use muscle memory in law enforcement. We physically practice, we go to the range so that time comes, handcuffing, second nature, right? going to our tools and our tool belt, second nature. We don't have the luxury of doing that with the schools and with your congregation, but you can create a mental memory. You can keep doing it enough so that I know what run means, I know what hide means, I know how to make myself, shut off the lights, get eyesight, right? Extension cord under the door, I know my door is open inward and outward, taking notice of my surroundings. All that stuff, you can take it anywhere with you, especially that situational awareness. That is essentially run, hide, fight. Again, it's addressing the worst case scenario. No rhyme or reason. Someone just walks in here with a weapon, whether it's an edged weapon or a firearm, and starts hurting congregants, okay, or worse. But again, statistically speaking, office spaces are where most active shooter events happen. Places of worship, movie theaters, schools, they're all the same percentage. They do happen less. But again, it's how do we put a safety plan in place so that if someone did come in, you didn't recognize, seems to be off a little bit, how do we address it safely? Do we have assigned people that are greeters as they come in? So again, it's a norm for you. Hey, welcome to the congregation. Do you need any information? Can I help you find a seat? And again, if the conversation proceeds, you're going to get a good idea quickly if this is something that you can address yourself, or if it's something that, a signal, maybe call 911 and get people who we train mental health, so we're very equipped to recognize the signs and how to de-escalate situations. But again, you don't want to just call every time, so you have to figure out that healthy balance of talking with individuals you don't recognize and then addressing them safely to see, can I handle this, or does this have to go up the chain to someone better equipped? I see this camera. Again, do you add another camera? Is there a way that you can put them in and view it? The walkies or the radios, communication, these are all things to think about in terms of setting up a better way to, if someone comes in here for casing and then they see cameras everywhere, they might think twice about coming in. Is that a cost feasible thing for the church? I don't know. That's something that you all have to discuss. The radios, again, other places have the radios, even if it's like an internal. The library just did, but the libraries was expensive though, right? The push button. All right, I have to ask an honest question, because I did my thing at the church, at the library, and so as I'm leaving, they're talking about this new security system, and the woman is walking, and she's like, okay, so if you're dying, you press the medallion or the pendant 8 times, and I was like, 8 times? I was like, what if you die at 7? Like, does that not seem like an excessive amount of presses? Like, even if you mistakenly pressed it, you could make it 5, right? Am I wrong? Does 8 sound excessive? Okay, I just had to make sure. All right, that's fine.
Yeah. But that's a good point, right? Like at the library, they got a pretty high-speed security system. It's used in a lot of college campuses, office building settings. It's an idea. It's not bad. It's a medallion that you wear with a lanyard, and if they have an issue with a customer, just like if you're in a church, you have an issue with someone you don't recognize that comes in, you can press it twice, and all it really does is alert all the other staff that there's an issue, and it gives them a location within the building so your buddies can come and help you. And that's a big point. That's a big thing they're trying to push now with this usher and greeting program at houses of worship, is to first have that staff available at special events, at masses, and the idea is work in teams. Because that's usually the feedback we get is like, man, I don't know, like, am I confident enough in my skills and my abilities to go address someone that I have a question about and open that line of communication? So it's important to find people that are willing to do that, to be part of your greeters and ushers, and then work as a team. It's always easier to have a buddy with you, right? If I see Matt and he's pacing around and I see a knife on him, I'm not really sure what's going on, I want to address him from a distance, but have someone else with you, and then have a plan. if things aren't going right, call us. Now, you're very centrally located in town. You're going to get a lot of cops very quickly here. You're fortunate where your location is. The fire department's right there. So, Matt did mention it earlier. If there were to be an active assailant, an active shooter type situation here, you're going to have a lot of police officers responding. And that's something we like to talk to congregations about as well, is what that police response will look like. So if you have an active assailant situation here, you're going to have everyone from the shift. You're going to have everyone that's in the police department that aren't even on the street. If it's a weekend, it's during a service, you're going to have mutual aid agencies. You're going to have the state police. You're going to have Newton Police. You're going to have Babson, probably Wellesley College. Anyone who hears the call, they're coming. So help will be here very quickly. And that's between that time when something goes off, you make that 911 call, and before the police get here, that's what we're trying to equip you with some tools with this run, hide, fight. Has anyone heard of run, hide, fight before? Yeah. And there's other variations of it. There's craze, civilian response to active shooter events. Matt and I teach Alice in the schools, which is alert, lockdown, inform, counter, evacuate. Yeah, they're all the same thing, right? People like to make money, right? So there's different variations of this, but they're all the same idea, right? And it all goes down to that baseline of, and I'm a huge proponent of taking the time. You can't force people, but taking the time to have people into the church and familiarize themselves with their surroundings. The entire interior of the building, the exterior. If I was going to, run out the back, well, there's a big wall there, right? And there's Route 9. So maybe that's not the best idea. So I think everyone here is probably from town and pretty familiar with the Hills area and where you could go. But that's not always the case. Maybe you have newer parishioners who aren't really familiar with the area. That's why I'm a huge proponent of taking the time, maybe a couple times a month, just to get everyone in here and just take a walk. Take a walk around the outside and then take a walk around the inside of the building. And that goes a long way for that situational awareness. And then the other things to talk about, and this is, higher level, but like, what security features does this building have and what doesn't it have? And start making your checklist, as far as locks, lighting, alarm systems, cameras. You can get pretty expensive pretty fast, right? And like I said earlier, you got to walk that fine balance, right? This is a welcoming place. It's a place of worship. It's a church. So you don't want to have that prison experience, but you do want to keep everyone as safe as possible. And you're doing the right thing, right? Having this conversation, having us here speaking with you, that's the first step, right? Realizing that unfortunately in today's society, right, like you have to have these type trainings and these type presentations. So you're doing the right thing, you're taking the first steps, and you kind of move forward from there with what you're comfortable with. But like Matt said, we're always around. If you want to have another training, it goes in incremental steps. I mean, other places will do trainings where you actually will move out to other spots throughout the building. And we'll bring in blank firearms with blanks. We'll let a few rounds off so you know what it sounds like. It's very disorientated. We do it with the teachers in the schools. You can imagine a big building. It seems like it would be easy, but like 1 or 2 rounds off blanks. You can hear it. It's loud, but you're not really sure where it's coming from. And that really drills home the fact of, okay, I'm going to run. Well, I start running and I can see a bad person, the bad actor. Well, I'm going to change my mind, reevaluate. I'm going to hide. Now it's quiet for a couple of minutes. Peek out, I don't see one. Well, I'm going to run again. But that's, whatever you're comfortable with. We just kind of want to give you the brief nuts and bolts of what it's all about today. But
I have a question. So when people come in for Mass, do they come in multiple entrances or that entrance over there? Just that one. Great. The doors on the other side, exit that go out, are they locked? Awesome. So again, so perfect. Just based on that, I would stage 2 greeters at the main door. So if you have the ability to use 4, like great, but even even on like a free, you have, let's say you had 4, perfect scenario, right? 2 at the door, 2 here, they're all in a group text message, right? Someone comes through the door, it's like, hey, you know, red jacket, blue button shirt. So now they're aware, like, okay, someone came through, their attention's drawn to it. But the earlier you can notice someone, that means now they're not coming into the area and sitting in a pew, and you're like you're, right? So that's how I would do it. Have your greeters at the main entrance. Good morning, welcome, welcome, right? It's a church. People are not going to be surprised by greeters, and they don't have to know that they're taking observations of everybody, right? And again, we do this other training, but it's off of that situational awareness. Like, most people who come to Mass are in a good mood, they want to celebrate their religion, right? Look for someone that doesn't fit that profile, right? If I walk in and I'm like this, does that fit the general norm of everybody coming into this building? No. Does it mean I'm up to no good? No, but it's something to draw your attention to, right? So they call it BOSAR. It's called Behavioral Observation Suspicious Activity Recognition. And all it is you develop a baseline. What is the majority of my congregation doing? Are they happy? Are they engaged in singing and following the Mass? And if someone doesn't fit that group, again, doesn't mean that something bad's going to happen, but it's like, okay, well, they're deviating from the norm. So now maybe it's, again, do we approach? Do we say, you know, and again, if you did that, what's a good way to do that? Yes, ma'am.
Someone doesn't look right? We don't want to call 911 and have police sirens and lights and everything. We just wanted a little police car to come down and take a look at somebody.
So, right, so if someone doesn't look right, I would have someone, no, that's perfect. We're here to ask questions, right? If someone doesn't look right, I would have someone trained or whatever to at least comfortable. Again, where's your opening? You know, do you have books that you hand out at Mass? Programs. So maybe if that person doesn't look right, just be like, hey, were you able to get a program? And, you know, I haven't noticed you here before. I'm so-and-so, like, welcome to the church, right? See, and then, again, from a safe distance, see how they return. Like, most people, if they're spoken to, speak back. If they're not, and again, like, hey, just look, you may have to call us and say, look, we have this suspicious party at the church. We try to talk to them. They're non-responsive. They're going to have a demeanor different than if they look upset, they look angry. That's fine. But you don't want to just, you have to at least, even at a safe distance, you have to engage with that individual. And again, because maybe they have that mean mug on, and they're like, honestly, like, I just got divorced, or I just buried like a family pet. Like, some people just come in for answers when they're just having a bad time. Like, you know, like, I know that, you know, I used to go to church on Sundays with mom and dad, but like, even when I'm home now, and like, when I'm having I pray. You know, like, I'll say that prayer, and it's a way to kind of, if I have family that's sick or whatever, it's just like, I need help, okay? And you're going to get that. And so that's why I don't want you to, you know, think that everybody coming in here with that is going to do harm. You just have to keep yourself safe, but address it with them and then see where the conversation goes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just want to know though, if we all decide it was not good, she's not a good character, can we call you and we won't think of being nice? When you arrive.
I mean, usually, more than likely, so anytime it's, like, if it's called in as a suspicious party, there'll probably be 2 officers that respond. You can request no lights and sirens. Typically, though, they'd probably use lights and sirens till they got close, because depending on the day, you know, traffic in Wellesley can be pretty ridiculous, right? So we don't want to, we're like sitting in traffic, like, I hope nothing bad happens before we get there, you know? So, yes, you can make the request. Does it get honored? Maybe, maybe not. And again, just because we come lights and sirens, we'll usually kill them before we get into the parking lot, so they may not necessarily know it's for, like, I mean, how many car accidents have we seen on Washington Street, right? Just because you hear lights and sirens, not everybody's going to be like, oh, that must be for the church. So you can make any requests you want. It's just we're going to make a judgment call based on the information we're given. Like, you know, if it's really a mental thing and it can flip, we probably want to get down there pretty quickly. Okay. Any other questions? Yes. The extension cord? Yep. So, oh shit, there's a door. So, yeah, so basically, you see how there's that little, if you can see it, there's a little space, or even if you, when you're done, that you can see the light. So what you would do is you'd slip, it doesn't matter which end, but they have a thick, you gotta get the heavy duty ones, right? Not the, like, you slip it underneath, and then literally all you have to do is, if you had something heavy enough that if they pull, it's not gonna move. Or, like I said, the easiest is, so this is probably a 3-foot opening. You buy a 2x4 and cut it to 4 feet, and you slip the cord underneath, you wrap it around the 2x4, and now they're gonna pull, and that 2x4 is wider than the door jamb, so it's not gonna go anywhere. Oh, in here, absolutely. Right. Yeah, absolutely. But again, so depending on where that person is and your level of fear, you may, it's running is absolutely, if you can get out of the building, that's the best to do. But again, depending on your anxiety level, your fear level, if you're like, I don't know where to run, and you're already downstairs and you decide to barricade, you better know how your door works and what's the best way to barricade. Okay, but yes, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, if you're in this, it's either running or fighting. There's no safe place to hide. That's how the room's set up. It's the same thing. Again, the high school has the cafeteria, running or fighting, until they can get to a room. Any other questions? Yes?
So these are wooden cubes.
Yes.
What if you can slide it up?
So if you,
Is that to be safe, or is that?
no, because what's that, you're now, you're banking on them not seeing you. The likelihood that they won't is they're probably going to be looking, right? So no, I wouldn't, like, that's what, and again, even most bullet rounds will go through this wood. Yes. Sir, I saw you with your.
When you call 911
Yes.
and you're able to speak,
Yes.
it would be nice to know the address.
Yeah.
And I wonder how many people in this congregation know the address of this building.
309.
Yeah. That's
part of situational awareness.
Yep. And again, if you are able to speak, right, this is a congregation primarily of adults, right, you want to get, like, if you're able to give a clothing description, I use it in the school because knowledge is power. We're coming into a complete unknown. We don't know your congregation, and our job is to stop the threat, right? If we're able to do that, we can address injured, but we're literally stopping the threat. So we're going in, and other than looking for someone with a firearm or an edged weapon, any information we can get is beneficial. So yeah, the address, the clothing description, anything you can give is helpful. Any other questions? Yes? No pictures. So you can only text words. So you could text, green hoodie, whatever it is, but in pictures won't come through. It's a good question.
It was interesting that you mentioned the run piece, because years ago, right, the best practice was, everything was locked down, and then they found that people were bypassing easy ways to run, and people were getting hurt and killed because they were trying to hide. I saw a presentation about, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, a mass shooting up in Lewiston, Maine. There's a couple different locations, a bowling alley, a bar. And a lot of folks in one of the bar areas, they decided to hide behind like a partition. They didn't realize there was an exit like 5 feet from them. and those people unfortunately didn't make it. So it just kind of hammers home the point, yeah, running and getting out makes the most sense. It's not always, you're not always capable to do it, and that's why we try to hammer home, like, it's not a linear thought process, and you can change, you can run, you can hide, you can run again, you can hide again. We just don't want people to get locked in on one decision. But it's important to know that piece. The other thing I'd like to touch on just real quick is, if there was some sort of active assailant event, it's kind of something that's skipped a lot, is the aftermath, right? Like, how are you going to deal with that as a congregation? And there's a lot of open source resources out there as far as if something bad were to happen. As, like in our world, we have critical incident debriefs. But all it is if something were to go bad here and you had a tragic event, what would you do as leaders in this church here, as far as maybe bringing an outside agency and some outside people in to talk, counselors, because there's going to be that piece afterwards, as far as, people that endured that trauma. Maybe they weren't even here, but it's that secondary piece, that secondary trauma. And there's plenty of resources you can reach out to, have people come in, counselors, like I said, to talk through this. Because people are going to be a little apprehensive to come back to this place, and it's like their second home, right? A place of worship, and you'd want to be somewhere where you feel comfortable. I don't want to belabor that point, but it is something that often gets overlooked when we talk about this whole piece. In the official presentation, I have some resources. I can forward it to you as well, Molly, and there's a lot of good resources there. But any other questions about the run, hide, fight, or?
I know this topic is heavy, especially when I do it in schools, especially in elementary schools. I have a 7-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter. I don't like teaching it as much as you like listening to it. That being said, the likelihood of something like this happening here is low. It is a reality of our world, so we don't bury our head in the sand and pray it won't happen. We prepare for it, but I do want to stress that the likelihood is low. So don't take it home with you. Like, it's a first step. It's something to think about, but I don't want this to weigh on you like someone's going to come into the church. More than likely, no, okay? But you're doing the right thing by getting the ball rolling and starting somewhere. But again, take a deep breath, go home, enjoy the rest of your evenings. This isn't something that's going to happen the next day. It's just we make sure that people are prepared for the unlikely. That's it, okay? Yes, sir.
Do other congregations practice evacuation drills?
So honestly, the temple is pretty much the only. And again, the Jewish faith has seen their fair share recently of violence. So, and we've been doing it for a while with the temple, and they're pretty high speed. They've been doing, we fire blanks with them. We've surprised them, so they do it a lot. This is. In terms of other churches, this is kind of just the jumping off point for us, so we haven't really gone into evacuation drills with this. Again, if it's something that you as a congregation discuss and want to and take it that next step, the deputy and I, and there are 2 other people who do it with us, are happy to help you and train you whichever way you want. Again, so it's whatever you want, we are more than happy to help you. Again, if it's ideas about security, if it's training, more in-depth drills, you reach out, you let us know, and we'll find a time that works for everybody. Okay. Oh, thank you for having us. You're welcome.